All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Tech Talks by the Collab Lab. My name is Rachel Fishoff. I use she and they pronouns. I am a volunteer with the Collab Lab and a former participant in both the regular program and the advanced program. And I'm currently an apprentice at Code the Dream based out of Durham, North Carolina. Just to tell you a little bit about the Collab Lab and then the talk, and I'll introduce Arisa. The Collab Lab is a volunteer-run program that is free for early developers to gain practical experience with real-world projects, working with senior developers and mentors. And then we have other parts like the Tech Talks, which are volunteer-run. Mike, who is also going to be helping with the meeting, is a mentor at the Collab Lab. He can introduce himself as well.
Hey, I'm Mike Lambert, and as Rachel mentioned, I'm a mentor with the Collab Lab, and I'm also a front-end engineer at Zapier.
Great. And like it says on the slide, all our talks are recorded and posted to YouTube. If you're not comfortable being on camera, feel free to turn your camera off. We will also post on the meetup page the link to the YouTube once we upload it. Additionally, there are live captions available using the Zoom closed caption feature, which you can turn on, I think, by saying show subtitles. Please read over our code of conduct on the website for what we expect in the meetings in terms of like respect for the speaker and for the other participants. And like I said earlier, Collab Lab is completely volunteer. And it is free for our participants who all come from underrepresented groups. So feel free to sponsor us. And we are so excited today to have Arisa Fukuzaki and giving us a talk on the internationalization guide of Jamstack. Arisa is a DevRel engineer at Storyblok. She is based in Germany. She is passionate about programming and putting women in IT and tech. She's a podcaster, a mentor, and also make sure that the 4 pillars of her DevRel, which is speaking, teaching, helping, and learning, are within everything she does. So we're just so grateful to have her here. And I'm going to stop sharing the screen and let her take over.
All right, thanks, Rachel. And thanks, Mike, again, for inviting me for such a nice opportunity. And let me share my screen. All right. I hope you all can see my screen. So if so, then I can start. And great, thank you. So my talk today would be internationalization guide in the world of Jamstack. So, but before, oops, let me go to the next slide. But before I start, jump right in to the talk itself. Yeah, Rachel already introduced about me, but now let's quickly have some overview again about how you can contact me, etc. too. So my name is Arisa. You can call me Arisa. And yeah, I'm originally from Japan, but as Rachel introduced me, I'm located in Germany right now, working as a developer relations engineer at Storyblok. And I'm also an ambassador of an organization called GirlCode to empower women to study, learn about the programming, to be developers. And yeah, you can reach me and also message me on Twitter if you have some of the questions about the talk related today or in general about Jamstack, Gatsby, Next.js, headless CMS architecture, or Storyblok. So you can find me with Arisa_dev on Twitter. All right, so I'm kind of a person always prefer to show in an action how the system works instead of showing you a bunch of the slides to make you get bored. So yeah, I'm not going to show you a bunch of the slides, but instead I'm going to show you an example of how internationalization works in one of the approaches, which I would like to share with you today. So the project which I'm going to give you as an example today is this project, which is a multi-language blog project, which we have at Storyblok as a demo example. So you will be able to actually build this complete project in your environment too. And to see if you want to take a look at the full process, how you can build this exactly the same project, if you're interested in, here is the hands-on blog post tutorial at storyblok.com. So you will be able to follow each steps in your own speed. And yeah, there is the literally hands-on process written from my colleague. So you will be able to follow the steps, even though if you miss some of the some small steps, just in case if I shortcut in this talk. Or if I speak too fast, just in case, you will be able to always come back here and take a look at the some of the steps you want to see later. So from this hands-on blog post tutorial, you also will have an access to take a look at our GitHub repository of this multi-language blog post project. So here you will be able to take a look at the source code, the README file, how to see how you can integrate in your environment, as well as to clone the project in your environment. So that's the how do I say, like the pre-information, the sources which I wanted to share with you. And here in this multi-language project, you will be able to switch back and forth in 2 languages, basically, in English and in German. So in English, you see the contents are translated in English, except the dummy content. So here you see featured articles, and under here it says I'm only accessible in English. It means this component is only available for English content. So if I switch over to, let's say, German content or German home entry page, you don't see this I'm only accessible in an English component. So this is one of the features that you will be able to enable in your environment from Storyblok default feature. So that's what I'm going to show you in the beginning. And in general, at Storyblok, we have 2 official ways to make the localization. One is called a folder level translation, and the other one is called field level translation. So for folder level translation, I'm going to quickly show you how it's going to be look as an example. You will see that the it's going to be dividing the languages by each folders. So you can create so in this way you will be able to create the different content layouts. For example, like the blog post project I showed you earlier, like the English content has 1 extra content, but the German content doesn't have this extra content. So that's how you can enable at the folder level translation. And there's another way, which I said field level translation, is translating each field types. So in this case, you will be able to display exactly the same layout of the component. So you can choose either one of the way, which is going to be more suitable for your projects. And yeah, I'd like to start to explain and show how it works from the folder level translation, as I'm already showing you a layout. So here, for all the English content, I stored the content entries in this English folder. And for the German content, I stored all the content, including entries, in this folder. So let's take a look at from one of the folder we have. So here I have an entry, and if you want to have some other nested layout, to have some multiple blogs to be able to choose from the header navigation, you also can do that. And yeah, let's take a look at from the simple entry. And for this case, I want to show you our brand new shiny v2 beta version of the visual editor. So you will be able to also discover what's in the new feature over there. So, but you always can bring it back to the version 1 also, because as we call this as a V2 beta, some of the features are still on the process to be released, but you already can able to experiment in your environment, as well as most of the features are already available. But today I would like to show you the V2 beta version of the visual editor. So in this English home entry, I'm able to see the results on left-hand side, which we call as a visual editor. Normally for the other talks, I will be showing like how you can, change the layout, something like this. But today's talk is about the internationalization, so I'm not going to cover too much about it. So for the folder level translation, there's one app from Storyblok, which is called Dimensions. It's really useful app to use it. So I would highly recommend you to install if you're going to use the folder level translation. So to install it, you can go to our settings on the sidebar. Sorry, I mean to say apps from here, and there's the dimensions. And to install, you just need to click install button, and here in my case, I already installed. That's why it's showing other way around. So after you clicking it, then you will be able to see this dimensions app options in up above. So from here, what this dimensions app do is that to be able to connect and create the link between each other with the other language folder. So instead of manually clicking and going back for each, nested architecture, you will be able to jump back and forth by easily clicking the dedicated language folder. So that's going to shortcut some of your, development time or content editing time. So I highly recommend you to use it if you're going to choose the folder level translation. So yeah, for here, I would like to actually show you the component layout difference. So here at the, I guess this is German home entry. Here has just teaser, featured articles, and grid, only 3 elements in it. But for the English, we have 4 components: teaser, featured articles, and this is the extra teaser we have. So like I said before, if you want to have a different layout of each entry pages, folder level translation is really useful. One of the useful ways that you might want to consider about it. And that's from the Storyblok side. And this project is built with Gatsby.js in this case. So from Gatsby's side, there are also 2 things you can set it up in order to be able to fully integrate the internationalization. So from Gatsby side, you will be able to do 1, changing the slug, and 2, automatically generating pages. So by enabling or building these 2 features from the Gatsby's, you will be able to allow content editors to create the pages automatically, programmatically from Storyblok side, so that the content editors do not have to edit the source code or need to ask developers to create the page each single time. And yeah, for this, I'm going to show you my source code very quickly. The project is already running in my environment, and this is the source code I have. So from Gatsby, we are going to take a look at the Gatsby Node.js file. And in here, I would like to explain from, first of all, changing the slug, because that's a little bit easier things to understand. And to change the slug from Gatsby side, there is a helper function, which I named this time as rewrite slug. So in this helper function, what I'm doing here, there are 2 things. The first thing is, well, for example, if you're taking a look at the German home entry, you don't want to see your URL path as the e/home, but you want to see like this short and cleaner way of home slug. So in this case, I'm replacing the slug from here in this line. And another another thing I'm doing in this helper function is, for example, if you're taking a look at the blog post in English, one of the blog posts in English, you don't want to see your URL path of your page showing like this, because you already know the default language. This project's default language is in English. So if that's the case, you don't want to see this English EN, starting from this slug. But instead, you want to see this nice and clean, only the necessary slug. And for this, I'm also replacing in a nice way, like this. So that's what we are able to do for changing the slug from Gatsby side. And yeah, because this helper function is very useful. There is also how do I say, like additional information I want to very quickly mention about is that you will be able to also change the slug for example, like the header navigations, because you don't want to see like the English header navigations for the German content, right? And for this case, you can create another function file, but you can store exactly the same helper function we declared at the Gatsby Node.js, and you can import it and simply call it in a way to change the slug. And let's say in this case, the header navigation. Same thing for the post list. For example, we have like 3 blog posts. So you don't want to see the English content, English blog post content in German blog post content. So that's one of the information I wanted to quickly mention about. And as I said before, there are 2 things we can do from the Gatsby side. One is the one I already explained, changing the slug, and the second one is automatically generating pages. This is something how do I say it? This is something, the theory that you need to understand from the Gatsby side. But so Gatsby can automatically generate the pages from the content setup in Storyblok. So it means that the developers already can configure the setup for content creators to be able to simply creating the pages from the Storyblok dashboard. And to do so, we need to choose from 3 options what Gatsby provides. So to take a look at the options, I can very quickly show you the Gatsby's documentation. So these are the 3 options that we want to consider which one to choose this time. So starting from the first option. So this one is by creating the React components in the directory of the source and pages. What I mean by that is, well, going back to the VS Code, because it's easier to see the directories layout. So here at the Gatsby, you have pages directory and under the directory of the source. So as long as you create the, let's say, a source code file in here, Gatsby will automatically detect as a new page. So just simply by clicking right click and then choose this new file, then I will be able to technically create a new page. But this is not an ideal way for many of the people except developers, and especially the one to create the pages would be most likely content editors. So we don't want them to, take the risk to edit the source code, creating the files, stuff like that. So the first option right here is not going to be an option for this time. And here, there is the second option from Gatsby. So this is by using the file system route API to programmatically create pages from GraphQL and to create the client-only routes. But in this case, this time, we want more control over the page creation. So if that's the case, we actually should choose the third option, which is here. And that's the one of the most recommended way to create the pages from Gatsby side. So this is by using a Gatsby Node.js file, and the file we were taking a look at together, we can implement in the API, which is called create pages. So the Gatsby API, which is called create pages, will be called once the data layer is bootstrapped to lit plugins to create pages from data. And we use the GraphQL API to get all the stories for Gatsby's project at Storyblok with some of the content type. We created at the Storyblok. So let me very quickly show you what content type means. So here at Storyblok's dashboard on left-hand side, there is the components section. When you click it, you will be able to see some of the, let's say, components you created earlier. And at Storyblok, we use the, we are based on the atomic design theory. So each component, you will be able to nest each other so that you can reuse these components in necessary entries. And here we have two elements, which are content type and nestable. So nestable components are the one I was explaining earlier, that you can nest some smaller parts components. But we want to pay attention for the content type this time. So what I mean by that content type is that you can imagine if there are two pages you want to create and want to have the common layout of the pages, then you can create one single content type and apply for these two pages. So it's going to work in a way like the page template or entries template. So in this case, we've created two kind of content type. One is called blog post for each single blog post, and the other one is the pages in general. So that by passing these page templates queries from Gatsby side, the content editors, creators will be able to choose the page templates from Storyblok dashboard side. So that's what we are going to configure. And we are able to configure these passing queries process from the Gatsby Node.js file again. So when we scroll down, there's the scope where you can see, okay, so here is the queries of the blog post content type, one of the template that we took a look at before. And here's the page content type again, another content type we took a look at before at the Storyblok's dashboard. So from the blog post, we have this set of queries to pass. And here for the page content type, we have this amount of set of the queries to pass. So depending on the pages that the content editors or any users who are using the Storyblok will choose to use the templates, we are able to pass different sets of the queries for that. And yeah, for example, to create the template files, here's the directory of the template that you can create by yourself. And under here, you can create these two content type template files. So one is starting from blog entry, and Gatsby already provides one special prop, which is called page content. So this page content prop will contain the queries from Gatsby Node.js file. And in this case, this is the template file of the blog entry, which means that each single blog page is queries. So we are able to pass these page entries queries through this page context props. So in the end, we are returning the final value as a JSX component. Very similar thing to the page content type template file. So we are using the same prop name, but in this prop, this doesn't contain exactly the same queries because this is the different page of template. So this page context prop contains this time for the page content type right here. So those are the two things which you can configure from Gatsby side to enable content editors to create the pages from Storyblok's main dashboard without having like complicated setups from their side. And that's the fundamentals of what you can build for the folder level translation. So based on these, I tried to make it simple and minimized way so that you will be able to also adapt these ideas and the way to build for the bigger scale of the projects. We've covered about the folder level translation first. So I'd like to move on to cover the topic of the field level translation. So for field level translation, I have a different space, which means project right here. created for this talk. And in this case, I didn't create the folder to make the clear difference between the folder level translation and field level translation. But of course, you can create the folders in here, but we are not going to use the folders in a way to divide the different languages content. So for this field level translation, on purposely, I disabled the visual editor because I want you to pay attention for the translatable content. So for here, compared to the folder level translation, at the folder level translation, we use the dimensions up, right? But in this case, field level translation, we don't have to use that because we don't have to switch back and forth different languages folders. But instead, we are going to use languages option right here. By default, it shows as a default language. And of course, you can change the default language from the settings. And there is the languages tab up above. So from here, default language, if you don't set up, then it's going to set up as an English. But if you want to set up as the different language, you also can name it here. And also to add some other languages option, you can do that from here. So right now, by default, it shows as in English. But of course, if you want to add something like, I don't know, any other like French, etc., you will be able to choose it, then add the language, then you can save to register that. So that's why you were already seeing some of the languages option right here, because that's what I already added before. And to translate the contents at the field level translation, let's head over to, let's say Japanese, why not? It's my language. And here, there's the arrow icon you can click. And if you click that, you will see this translate checkbox available. So if you click this, then you saw that the default value is now disappeared. And there's another down arrow icon that you can click. If you click it, then it shows a default language, but there are two more icons, copy to field and Google Translate. So you don't have to type it out by yourself, the field value that you want to translate. Instead, you can just copy the value and also choose the Google Translate. And by default, Storyblok already detects the, sorry, not the Storyblok, Google Translate already detects the language you wanted to translate from Storyblok. So you can simply copy that and swap the value in the field type, save it. And if I move over to German and do the same process, take the checkbox to translate, copy the original default value, translating through the option of the Google Translate and paste the value, then let's save. Then I will be able to see the Japanese content in the dedicated field, the field which I only translated in Japanese and also in German, the place where I translated. So in the field level translation, you will be able to choose which field to translate. So let's say you want to show some of the field types that you do not want to translate in each languages, but let's say only the title you want to translate. In this case, field level translation will could be one of the best solutions that you might want to consider about it. And the other one note I would like to highlight for the field level translation is that, well, folder level translation, you were able to display the different layout of the components for each languages. If you do not want to take this way and want to show exactly the same layout of the content for each languages, field level translation would be one of the best solutions that you might want to consider about it. Yeah, and yeah, those are the two official internationalization features that we can use from Storyblok. And there's also another alternative way that you might be interested in to take a look at it, which is the way to translate in the space level. So at Storyblok, we call each project as spaces. So it means that per project, per spaces, you will be able to set up, for example, okay, this space is specifically for the English content, and this space is specifically for, let's say, Spanish, etc. So yeah, there are very flexible multiple options that you can choose it. And there are some of the customers at Storyblok uses these features for bigger scale enterprises project as well. Yeah, and of course, if you want to take a look at the sources and want to test it out right now in your environment, there's of course the blog post tutorial is available, which I showed you earlier in this talk. So later this talk, I'm going to share this my slide from slides.com. So you will be able to get access to this link without searching around. And of course, if you are, let's say, Next.js developer, or any other libraries, or using the other languages of your choice, we have the Technologies Hub. So you will be able to see all these resources available for you. And yeah, I also want to say thank you to my team, because today I'm the one talking, but without having the effort from my team and having the support from them, I wouldn't be able to provide this talk at the Collab Lab. So I'd like to say thank you to my team, but also at the same time, I want to say a huge thank you to all of you hosting this nice event, as well as attending and watching my talk. So thank you so much. And last but not least, as I said earlier, we have launched the V2 beta at Storyblok. So if you want to test it out in your environment, to play around and figure out what kind of features we have, you'll be able to have access from this URL. So you can sign up from here. Yeah, you will have the full access to the V2 beta in your environment. So that's pretty much about what I wanted to talk with you all today. And if you have any questions related with my talk or Headless CMS, Storyblok, I'm very happy to answer. So again, thanks for watching my talk. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. A great job.
Thank you too.
If anyone has any questions, feel free to post them in the chat here. I have one, just in me being a little slow sometimes, but I was wondering, could we? I saw that there were those GraphQL queries, and it doesn't specify a language in there. Where's the language specified in the query? Because I'd assume that it's delivering just
yes,
content in a given language.
You're correct. Here in these queries, we are not specifying the languages. Just a second. I think I saw that we specified the language, not in this source code, but it might take a bit time for me to figure it out right now. But if you want to take a look at, there is a much more details in here, and everything what I'm sharing the source code right now is based on this hands-on blog post tutorial. So we will be able to find here too. I think it would be quicker to find in here.
I wonder if it's the slug, because
in the slug, yes, we specify, in a way we specify, but we do not specify specifically like in German or in English. So let me go to Gatsby config, not the Gatsby config. There is I think it's from here. Yes, not in the Gatsby Node.js file, but in the Gatsby's configuration file, there is a language specification that you might want to set up from one of the Gatsby's plugin. So default, you can specify like this, the value. Like that. Cool. So not just from the GraphQL side. As you saw, we do not specify the language specification from the GraphQL queries, but it's more likely relied on the Gatsby's configuration side. And as well as to change the slug, we need to do that from Storyblok's dashboard too. So with the both, it works with the both ways, from the Gatsby side to change the slug and set up the slug from the Gatsby's main dashboard.
Cool, awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Also, one more information.
I was just gonna say,
go ahead.
I have a question, but I'm doing this on my phone, so I think it's easier for me to ask verbally than through the chat. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So this looks really great, and I'm curious. You know, the example you gave here is in the context of using the Storyblok platform, and
Mm-hmm.
I work for an international humanitarian aid organization, and we're not using Storyblok, and I don't think it'd be easy for us to sort of adopt that. So I'm thinking, like, how can we use the other things that you've talked about here on the platforms? Like, we have a network of sites, internal websites that are built on Drupal. So that's more PHP based. And then we have Python apps that are built in the Django framework. We're using jQuery and React as front ends on those systems. I'm just trying to think about, can we do kind of the things that you've done here without the Storyblok platform, or can we adapt what you've shown here to actually run on other platforms, content management platforms?
I would say this is, well, one of the way to show you an example from Storyblok. So I would say, like, of course, the other platforms has different way of dealing with the internationalizations. So it could be, or with high possibility, it would be that very different approaches depending on the services you will use, and also the architecture you use. For example, you said one of the projects you build is with the Drupal. So this is monolithic unless you make adapt in a way of the headless architecture. So this is going to be a little bit different because from the architecture level, those are quite different systems, I would say. So yeah, my answer would be it could be very different in a way that depending on the services and the architecture you use. Yeah.
And the kind of a follow on to that, the technologies, it sounded like we would probably want to adopt and start using in our apps would be the Gatsby JS framework. And then you referenced Node.js. Is that a requirement for the kinds of things you've done here, or is that just how it works with the Storyblok environment?
Well, this is just one framework's example. So if you're interested in, for example, the other technologies, Node.js, let me very quickly check. Here at the resources, you can reach to the technologies hub. I don't think we have the Node.js specific hands-on blog post tutorials, but yeah, well, in Node, here.
Node would be an underlying, like Node is relied on for Gatsby.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. Well, that's very helpful. Thank you. I can we can call this question answered. Thank you very much.
Thank you too. It's quite helpful, you know, to have some of the questions, you know, instead of having just the silent time and then being awkward. Yeah, so I like that. Yeah.
When the awkward silence sets in. I just wanted to comment that this is this approach is really great, having struggled through just a standard React application using React Intl and kind of traditional, I guess, non-web stack application, and the ability to translate directly within the content management system is really nice. Yeah, really cool. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I also personally really, I mean, if I say right now, because I work at the Storyblok, so it sounds a bit cheesy, but even before I joined the Storyblok, of course, I wanted to test it out. And when I tested out as a developer, I really liked, yeah, how easy it was to deal with and how easy it was to configure. So yeah, I also really like the, workflow to configure. Yeah, for internationalization as a developer. So it would be really useful practice for some of the, let's say, developers who want to just started to get into like what's the headless CMS architecture, something like that. For this, we have yeah, like multi-block projects, like I showed you in basically 3 different frameworks right here. So you will be able to practice through yeah, these hands-on blog post tutorials too.
So I've got another question for you.
Sure.
As relates, there's the folder structure approach, which you showed first. And though that would require, I guess, that you have like mirrored folder structures that exist in the different languages, right?
Okay, yes.
Does Storyblok like set up any of those, or do you have to go through and like make sure that there's something that like I have English, and so I got to make sure I have this Japanese home folder or something like that. And then
okay.
Is there anything that it would like default back to the default language, or does it just not build if the structure is not correct?
So if I understood your question correctly, there is actually a way to duplicate the inside of the folder structure. So you don't have to manually every single time to create the inside of the structure, like layout of the folder. So, in the beginning, of course, you need to lay out how the first inside of the folder is going to be look like, because while you're developing, or the content editors are figuring out how they want to lay out, some of the layout would be changing, right? But as long as you have the first folder ready or configured by yourself, then you will be able to duplicate. Let me quickly show you so it's faster. Let's go to the folder level translation in this case. So I have two another languages. Let's say if I want to duplicate one which is based from the English folder, then I can just tick the checkbox, then click this copy option. Then you can change the name very easily to, I don't know, French, something like that. And of course, you can change the slug from here without making the complicated configuration. And when I just click duplicate, then the English folder structure has very simple, only home, and you will be able to imitate or duplicate exactly the same layout of that. So you don't have to, how do I say it, like manually make sure that each inside of the folders layouts are following the same from what you want to based on. Instead, you can just simply choose duplicate, and yeah, it's done.
Awesome. Cool. That's easy.
Any other questions?
All right. Well, if I guess if there's no other questions, we can just wrap it up. And oh yeah, right.
Actually, I have one more question. You said this slideshow, the YouTube or the video would be recorded and posted on YouTube. Is that going to be available to pretty much anybody? Because I'd love to share this with some people on my team, and they haven't signed up for this meetup. Okay.
Yeah, it'll be available for just to the general public. Yeah.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you so much. This is great. Thanks for putting this together and sharing it. It's really awesome to see. Really happy to hear. And thanks again, everyone, for organizing this meetup event and attending and joining my talk.
Thank you very much. Great. So everyone, I guess, have a great rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. And we will see you later.
All right,
you.
thanks everyone.
Bye,
Bye.
buddy.